When did you first realize that your spiritual path was calling you in a different direction from the mainstream?
Wow. I feel like it's always been knocking at my door. Like when I was a child, it felt very um palpable. And the older I got, that veil certainly came down. Um, when I'll give an example, when I was in my early 20s in college, I came into the kitchen one morning, and here's my dad, who was a conservative businessman. And I always trusted his opinion. He was my rock. Excuse me. And I said, "Hey, Dad, do you believe in reincarnation?" And without skipping a beat, he immediately said, "Of course I do." And boy, that was the permission slip that I needed to fully start deep diving. And I started reading about death and dying. So fast forward 20 years later, and I'm doing all the Abraham Hicks stuff, the In Vogue stuff at the time, and I'm in a group, and that was super cool. And then fast forward to COVID, and it really was in 2021 when I felt like, wow, things are so different. And it's almost like my perception of the world and what I used to think about spirituality all kind of changed.
That's pretty amazing. So, were you shocked when your dad gave you that answer?
100%. Yes,
Yeah.
because we were raised Catholic.
Oh, wow. So was
Yeah.
I. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I just spent a lot of time getting over my issue with the word God
Okay.
from
That
being
has always
Catholic.
felt very comfortable for me. And I do like to refer to God as source,
Mhm.
the universe, creator. Take your pick. It's all interchangeable, whatever
Yeah.
feels comfortable.
I totally agree. It's just, I went on this spiritual quest. And for me, being Catholic, and I don't know if you had this experience, God was so outside of you, right? You had to go to confession and you couldn't talk to God. And that just never made sense to me. And God to me was very angry in the Catholic religion.
Yes. I felt so much shame and guilt my
Yes.
whole life. And, that is something that you are raised to feel like you were born shameful. You were born with guilt and sin, and nothing could be further from the truth.
I know. And that's why, right? So that's why I needed to make my peace with that because I was kind of fearful of God,
Yeah.
but then also kind of like, why would I want to worship this thing that's so nasty to me?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It just wants to punish me all the time. Like that just so I had to do my own process of going through, really what that word now means. Now I have no issue with it, but it was a process. So it's
No,
good that you didn't have to.
no, no.
So what personal doubts or struggles along your spiritual journey were the hardest to work through for you?
Mm, wow. Really believing in myself and the
Mm.
messages that I'm getting, because I have been involved in things where there was a guru, or, you're looking at someone who knows more than you. And yeah, I had to walk down that path a few times before I realized, yeah, it's all in here. I got it all.
Was there like a certain instance or maybe not with those gurus that made you go,
I was never turned off by it because all paths lead to the same thing.
right.
Whether you take a detour and go down a different timeline, it may take you a little bit longer, but it's all for us to explore, and it all is coming back to us. So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, no, it totally did. And how feeling that uncertainty, how were you able to make peace with that? I mean, when you realize, okay, it's all within me, sometimes that also can feel very overwhelming. Like, okay, it's all within me, but what do I do with that?
Exactly. Oh, yes. I have been struggling with self doubt for years and self worth. And that has been the focus of my work for a long time. Um, Knowing that I'm the creator of my own reality,
Mhm.
and I really want to deep dive into the shadow aspects of myself and not be afraid of that. And we've been told that we want to be all love and light and positivity. Well, no, we don't. No, we don't. We want to go into those hard corners that we're afraid, that look really scary, because that's how you can know yourself more. And if you can practice love and compassion and non-judgment to yourself, then that's how you move through the world. That's how you make a difference.
Yeah, I agree. And that's right. And some people say, okay, that sounds great. It's easier said than done.
Oh, it's
So
not. It's not. Oh my God, no, I can have high highs and low lows all in one day. And sometimes you feel like you're just going to lose your mind because, or you're crazy because you're experiencing all of these different things that are coming out of you, or triggering you or whatever. And we're here to self master.
yeah. Yeah, which leads me to asking you, because that's a great segue into that, is have you ever experienced a moment of clarity or an epiphany that profoundly shifted your spiritual perspective?
Yes. I've had some really amazing experiences just this year, and uh, doing mirror work. And also, I'll talk about the ones first about where I was doing something as simple as washing a sweet potato at my window. And it seems like dusk is always kind of the magical hour for me. I don't know why, but it feels very, very magical, kind of in between worlds. And so I was um, washing the sweet potato this summer, and I'm looking out my window and just filled with so much love and gratitude. And I switched frequencies. Like, I felt complete bliss and joy. And I was thinking, wow, is this what it's going to feel like when a partner comes in? And then I'm realizing, no, this is my own frequency. This is it felt like home. I needed nothing. It just felt so all encompassing, like you don't need anything else. And I'm so excited because I can see what people are talking about and what I'm reading about, how we are moving from 3D to 5D. And I was only able to hold that frequency for about 3 minutes,
Wow.
but it felt absolutely incredible. And the other time, I was sitting right here and I was looking outside my backyard, enjoying all of the nature and the sky and the trees. Again, it's around dusk. I don't know why. And having so much love and gratitude. And I'm thinking about my dad that's passed 15 years. I feel like he's so present in my life. I love him so much. And the same one that gave me the permission slip.
Yeah.
And I'm looking outside, and it's a very, it's a scene I see every day. All of a sudden something switched, and again I shifted frequencies, and what was a normal scene out my backyard became heaven on earth. And I was overwhelmed. I broke down crying because nothing had changed except the frequency. And it's really hard to describe because it's just unconditional love. It's the love that we're all looking for. And again, I could only sustain it for about 3 minutes and it was gone. But what has changed me so profoundly on my spiritual path is having these little glimpses of where we're headed as humanity, into this higher frequency. And not that where we are is bad, it's not, but it's all about the hearts. And I was in love and gratitude when it came on just organically.
So were you like, because right, the one time you're washing a sweet potato, which I'm sure a lot of people are like, right, I like sweet potatoes, but let's be honest, like How much love and
Yeah.
gratitude am I going to give towards that? Although I get it, we get it from mindfulness and all that. But for anybody who doesn't necessarily practice that, like, what does being in love and gratitude, like, how would one do that? Say if they wanted to have that experience that you have, and I don't know anything about it, right? Like, what does that look like?
Well, you know how you have love for your child or a pet or a creation, art or whatever. If you can cultivate that on a daily experience, or even just for a few seconds, like a few minutes, and it really does take sitting in presence. And I was doing it without even thinking about it. And just looking at the tree outside my window, like, oh my God. And I started to get the message like, I'm really connected to this land that I'm on.
Yeah.
And actually, even more, that no matter where I go on earth, I'm really connected to the earth. And so as I was receiving those messages, I was feeling even more gratitude. Just admiring something is really what can cultivate gratitude.
I need more sweet potatoes.
Always. Oh yeah, always.
You said that you could only hold that frequency for minutes.
Right.
And why do you think that is? Like, what do you think shifts you, right? We talked about shifting into it, but what do you think is shifting you out of it?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I think because we are still flip-flopping between the two
Mhm.
frequencies, and we're going to be doing that for a while until, well, I think there are people that can maintain it. I'm still human, so I'm still very much present in this physical reality, but I aspire to the other and I have glimpses of the other. And it just gives me I'm so excited to see what's coming because this is where we're headed.
Totally. And I think it's important for those who don't know, there's this idea that we're in 3D and we're traveling somewhere to 5D. And the reality is we're not really traveling anywhere. It's just an energetic frequency that you can tap into, right? Like, so for you, you were tapping into that 5D energy frequency in those moments. And then, like you said, we're all human, and we're human. So we're here to kind of live this human experience. And I know a lot of people try to attain to that, right? Like, people think sitting in a cave and
Right.
meditating.
Which probably does work
Yeah.
years, but I feel like we are so multidimensional that all of those dimensions are already within us. We have
Yeah.
access to that. And just by mere love and gratitude and connecting with nature, it opens that door to
Yeah, and
move
I think
on.
that's important to share because I think people don't get that is right. You're just opening yourself up to those higher frequencies, and love and gratitude is the highest form of those.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
makes
Part
total
of it.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. We're innately here to love. I mean, people don't. I don't know why people don't think that. You know what I mean? But and I do that a lot too. I mean, I'll literally just sit out in nature and just look, and you realize how perfectly orchestrated it all is, and how connected you really are, and you know, it's just fascinating. I would entice people to go out and just look at the birds or watch the squirrels. You know what I
Right.
mean? If you don't
Birds
even
really
have a lot of nature.
carry,
Yeah.
yeah. I just wanted to say the birds really do carry a frequency
Yeah, they
that
do.
is very high vibrational. And I never used to really think about it. And now when I hear them, wow, it is transformative. So, yeah, they're beautiful.
So how do you tune out noise or distractions from everyday life in order to nourish this side of you and your spirituality?
Hmm. Well, I live alone, so I can do that very easily. Music for sure,
Oh yeah.
absolutely. That puts me right into it. That's probably the easiest. And actually, just sitting with my cat and petting her and giving her love. I look at her and I can completely tune out. And it really does come back to how present can I get? Because when I'm spiraling out,
Hmm.
if I can come back to like this now moment, and realize this moment is perfect. This moment is exactly where I'm supposed to be. And I love it. Yeah. It may not
So
look exactly what I want it to be, but it's supposed to be, you know?
right. Well, that's the other key thing. So what practices, like when you're in those moments, help to center and ground you? I know you mentioned your cat, which is interesting, because do you ever find that you have to put your cat in another room if you're doing certain practices? Because I've heard that a lot when doing energy work. Like energy healers will tell me, do you have a cat? Which I don't, but I have had them, and they're like, okay, because if you do, they have to go in another room because they'll suck up all the energy.
Oh, I feel the opposite. I feel like she contributes to
Really?
what is happening. Oh, she's a very enlightened being. I get that. And when she first came into my life, she came off the streets, and I had her for just a few days, and it was right at the beginning of lockdown. And I
Wow.
remember one night I was taking a hot bath, and she walked in to kind of check out what I was doing. And I was like, oh, wow, we have been together before. And I know it was in Egypt. So I feel like we are kindred souls and meant to be together in this lifetime. So we work together.
So is she part of your spiritual practices and grounding, or?
Only if she wants to be. Like she'll
Yeah.
come and nuzzle up with me. I was doing a meditation the other day, and she put half of her little cat body on my lap, which she's never done. I've had her for 3.5 years because she's lived on the streets for, I don't know, maybe a couple years before I got her. So she slowly, her little nervous system is starting to unwind, and
Yeah.
and she knew that that meditation was powerful. So she wanted to be a part of it.
I love that.
Her name's Natasha, by the way.
Is that an Egyptian name?
No, she's a Russian blue, so I wanted a sexy Russian name for her.
Oh, that's nice. I like that. So you talked about, right? You were with her in Egypt. How do you know that?
I don't know. I really don't know. It's like I just had a knowing. It
Okay.
just came to me. Oh, you've been together before.
What does that feel like? Because there's a lot of people that don't know. I know what you're talking about, but right, but there's a lot of people out there that don't know that they have these gifts, which we all do, right?
Right.
We all
We,
have them. Yeah.
yeah.
So what is knowing for you? Because I know what it's like for me to know something, but like, what does that feel like to know? Like you said, like I just know. Like how?
Yeah. Um, so it was like just a knowing or a download. And a lot of times, I think what I did for years in my whole life, I was just like, oh, well, that's silly. There's no way. But, what's that? And I think since I've started really trusting the messages that I'm getting, that's a big thing, is to trust
Yeah.
that you can communicate with spirit. And so trusting those messages really does open the door, because they've been coming in more and more. They want you to open that door. Your angels, your guides, your ancestors, your higher self, they want you to open that door. There's so much available to us, so much support.
When did you find out that was a thing, right? So you asked your dad, do you believe in reincarnation? You've had this journey, but like when did you find out, like, wait, what? I have guides and I have, you know what I mean? Like there's other beings, whatever you want to call them, that I can talk to. Like when did you find that out?
All right, well, here's where I come out of the spiritual closet, because most people haven't heard this story. So I'm really stepping out of my comfort zone here, because people, are going to be like, oh, okay. So again, this year I was doing mirror work, and actually I was meditating, and I thought, no, get in front of the mirror. Again, it was dusk, and I'm looking at the mirror, and I really do enjoy mirror work, and I just focus on my face. And my first experience, I'll take you through two experiences that I had. The first experience that I had was I spent about 15-20 minutes in front of the mirror. All of a sudden, my reflection started to shift, and I could see my aura. It was glowing, and also sparks like were flying off of my body. And I sat with it. And next thing I knew, my form started to pixelate, which is like little dots, like
Right.
ever seen a Monet painting, whatever. And it's just unbelievable that we are energetic beings. And then I realized, oh my goodness, I am projecting this. What I am seeing, I am projecting with my eyes. Our eyes are projectors. And so that was super fascinating. And I was just blown away by that. Couple weeks later this summer, did mirror work again. And it's interesting because this time I slipped right back into where I was last time, into that
Oh, wow.
altered state. And this is where the guides come in. Oh, first some, but I'll get to that. So I'm looking at my face, and all of a sudden my face is transposed with the face of a woman. And I knew that this is most likely an incarnation that I've had previously, that she was superimposed. Like my face was gone, it was her face on me.
Mm.
And she was young. She had her hair in a bun, it was brown. And she was really beautiful and not, I didn't garner too much from her. But the next thing I knew, the face changed and it became a face of an older woman. And she looked indigenous. And I don't know where in the world she was, but they both were from days gone by.
Right.
And she had a grimace on her face. She was not happy. I know. And I look, and as I'm experiencing this thing that is blowing my mind, I'm like, I say out loud to myself, wow, I can't believe this is happening. Beckett, it was her face and her lips that were moving.
That's so crazy.
It was wild. It was wild. So it just shows you that there's so much to us. And she fades away. The next thing I know, there was a very large male body, but it's a light body standing behind me, like really big and really tall. And that's my guide. I knew that he is my master teacher
Mhm.
that just came to me. So I felt very comforted by that I've got this big guide that looks out for me. All right, here comes the fun part. So the next thing I know, there is a small gray ET on my lap. And
Like in the mirror or like literally?
yes, so I've got the big man behind me, the light body behind me, and I've got the small female gray sitting on my lap. And she comes up to about here. I want to put her around like 20 years old. And she's just smiling and looking around like she's just having the most fun ever. And I am just like, oh my God, I couldn't believe it. And that lasted for maybe again 15, 20 minutes. And then it was gone. So that's how I know that I have guides, even though I call upon my angels every day.
Yeah.
But I saw those two guides, which was the first time for me. And very exciting. I know they're here with me.
Two
So
things I want to touch on because
yeah,
that's an amazing thing. But one, had you heard of mirror work, or were you just felt drawn to sit in front of your mirror?
I had heard of mirror work, oh gosh, years ago. Maybe did it once or twice with not too much success. I
Mhm.
was completely drawn to the mirror. Yes.
That's because it's scrying, right?
I guess so. I'm not really familiar with that.
Scrying, well, scrying is like you can do it with mirrors, you can do it with fire, you can do
Oh,
it with water, where
yeah.
you innately just stare into that object, whether it's fire, water, mirror, and really have an experience like, or some type of experience that you're speaking of, right? You see something, see a guide, see a symbol, see something that means something to you, but it's using these objects or these elements to really transcribe these messages, right?
Yes,
So,
I've seen things in fire.
so knowing that, and so why do you think two things? Who were the women in the mirror? Do you know? And secondly, why do you think your guides showed up at the end?
Well, I feel like the women were me in past incarnations.
Okay.
And why they came, I don't know. Why the guides showed up at the end? Wow, maybe to reinforce that I was supposed to see that and feel that, and that they are right here. They have a lot to teach me, to show me.
Do you think the
And,
women had a message? Because it's interesting, right? That you saw like a younger one and then you see an older one who's grimacing, but it's like, have you asked your guides or thought like, what was the purpose of that?
I haven't, and I was thinking about that today, that that would be a really good question too. Um, the what I realize is though, so feeling, we all go through periods of loneliness.
Yeah.
And when you're not partnered, or even when you are partnered, you can be so lonely. And what I realized, oh, and we've always, like you said, we're taught in religion that we are separate from God.
Yeah.
And what I realized through this experience, I'm never alone. I'm never alone. So that was something that I needed to know.
That's a big one because it's even right as evolved or as much as we dive into this, you and I, have extensive backgrounds in it. I still feel alone, even though I know logically, right? I know we're not alone, what you're saying, but yet the feeling of loneliness can be difficult, in those moments of, and really what I do is just try to ground into that loving energy like you talk about and just remember because what I've come away with, and I don't know if you have the same theory or view, is when I feel that disconnected or loneliness, really what I should say is when I feel that loneliness, I am really disconnected is what it is.
So true. Yes, absolutely. So I realize I need to connect back in with my heart. However, I can do that. And sometimes it's just words of affirmation to myself, speaking to myself in a really loving way. Like I would never speak badly to myself anyway. But yeah, the loneliness, it's a human condition. And
It
even
is.
though we know that we have support in the spiritual realms, we really are living here on earth, and finding that everything's within us, and we hold everything that we need.
Yeah.
So
Which can seem overwhelming, but it really is empowering when you can really start playing with that magic and believe in it. And I think, do you talk to your guides a lot?
I do, but I talk to my angels more. I
Aren't
feel
those your guides?
like they probably are.
I group them all together. I think like, right, your ancestors, your God, like they're all the same. It's just they have different categories. You know what I
Yes,
mean?
they're all aspects of me. They're all me. Yes,
Right.
they're all you.
Right. And
Yes.
there's a lot of people that don't even like that, they can't fathom that either. Cause like, it's easier again to think that there's something outside of ourselves helping us because we can't possibly be that sovereign and powerful, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Right, right. Yes. And we are. It's amazing. If we knew who we were, we would never feel un- unempowered, so fearful. So,
That's true. And you have like one of the sunniest dispositions I've ever met in a human being.
thank you. And I'll tell you what, I came out this way, and I feel like people have really tried to suppress it along the way because it can trigger people that are not necessarily feeling that. So I used to take it personally, but I don't anymore. I
Yeah,
realize,
you shouldn't.
this is why I'm here. And yeah, so
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a beautiful thing, and that's if we had more people and like that, because I think also too, though, the spiritual realm, right? Like we talked about in the beginning, there's a lot of spiritual bypassing. And so I think a lot of people think if you're that sunny of disposition, that doesn't mean you're still not going through challenges.
No, no, not at all. Yeah, listen, I go through my times as well. Last week was super duper heavy, and I just gave myself grace. I realized it's temporary. My mind was bringing up every thought, high, low, in between, everything really hijacking me. Sometimes you just have to surrender to it and realize, okay, that's not me. This is all an illusion. Like sometimes it is you though too, or it's the collective, or how you've been raised, or whatever that is. But um, the interesting thing is, since we're here to master our emotions, sometimes it's amazing because when I recognize something comes in, like I feel badly about myself, I recognize, well, that's an illusion. And I can go very quickly now to realizing, no, I'm whole, I'm okay, I'm safe, I'm happy. And it can happen just that quickly. Not always, not always. And I have spent years just really being so present and being the observer of what's coming through my thoughts, because I'm not my thoughts.
Right. That's a tough one that everybody, right, thinks. And that's a whole other conversation we can have, but you're right. That is true. And I think it's important to understand, like, how is this path, speaking of that, right? Because you do have this sunny disposition, but I also know you've been through challenging stuff. How does your path help you to confront and transform your shadow self, like your fears, your flaws, your weaknesses? Because I think that's something that a lot of people don't talk enough about, and something I'm passionate about. And I think it's the essence of the work, because if you don't go into the shadow, you can't even see light, right? With light, you don't see light.
Right, right, exactly. Yeah, it can be really hard when you're in that dark place. And it helps to know that I've got people supporting me that understands. And I think that's really important, to find your people that are willing to listen and not judge and can hold space for you. That helps immensely. I journal. Journaling helps me so much. And oftentimes I can answer my own questions, find relief through journaling. Music, nature. And again, we keep coming back to these things, but these really are tools in my toolkit. Breathing, breathing. One of the things that I love to do is I breathe in, imagine my heart space growing, and breathe out and imagine that heart love radiating out, to the world. And I'll do that in and out. And it's amazing how quickly it can reconnect and center you. Finding your own way to ground and center is going to be key. So whatever that looks like.
Have you gone through a dark night of the soul?
Yes. Yes. I did when COVID started. That was probably my biggest one. And I've had, many ones too, but that one was so scary. I thought I was dying. And I said, God, if this is it, then I'm ready. Let's go. I was terrified, absolutely terrified, crying. COVID brought that out in me. And I'm so glad, because that was a real turning point in my evolution.
I was gonna say, so like how, because I know, like, I've been through it, other people have been through it, right? And I ended up going to therapy and other things because there was a lot going on. But there's this point of, it's so dark, right, that all the practices that I knew didn't work. It was like I would pretty much want to say F you if you told me to say a positive affirmation, or you know what I mean? Because it was like, I just need to know, how do I swim in this? Right?
Yeah.
Like, how do I navigate that? And so how were you able to, like, you spoke of saying, okay, I understand if I can look at my emotions, understand they're not me. But in the dark night of the soul, that's tough to do. It's tough to separate because the emotions are so overpowering.
Yeah.
So what did you do to get you through that?
Oh, I just kept praying and I kept talking to the universe. Yeah, there was no light. I felt like no light was getting in, but it was definitely meant to shake me up. It took several days for that fear and the crying and terror to leave my body. I have a friend that I will call. She's my spiritual advisor. She helps me,
Mhm.
but I know that I've got support. But I knew that what it was too. I knew what a dark night of the soul was. That was the heaviest one I've ever been in. And so that seemed like a real turning point
Yeah, it's
for
not. I mean, I don't know anybody that enjoys it. It's not fun. And for people
no.
who don't know, Dark Night of the Soul is just a really, if I can make it very simple, it's just a very collapsing moment in your journey where everything, you're not who you used to be, and you're not yet, you haven't become who you are. And it's this middle ground of just nothingness almost. And you don't know how to even express yourself. And it just feels very dark because everything you once were is dying. And then the new hasn't been born. So I know you'll hear that term a lot. Some people don't know what that is, but that's roughly what a dark night of the soul is. And I personally believe you, like you said, can go through major ones and mini ones.
Yeah.
Um, I know a lot of people say, "Oh, there's just one." I don't subscribe to that. I think there's multiple.
Right. Absolutely. And I really did feel like I was going to die and I was ready to go
Yes.
off the planet, and that terrified me. It really did. I felt like God had completely turned its back on me. Like I was completely forgotten, that there was no one to help me. And then you realize once you get through it, oh wow, that's me. I can help myself.
Well, it's the
And
ultimate surrender, right? It's breaking you to the point of, because I felt the same way. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like I remember telling my therapist, I don't want to kill myself, but I'm
yeah,
okay if something takes me off this planet.
right.
You know what I mean? And she said, "Oh, so you're passively suicidal." And I said, "I don't know what that means." And you know
Right.
what I mean? And she was just like, "That's what that means. You would be fine if something else took you off, but you're not doing anything to end your life." And I said, "No, not at all."
Yeah.
But I felt that way. I was like, I was done. Now totally different scenario, I had a lot going on, but still it's this just complete feeling of like abandonment. And I think you're right. It takes us to a point of ultimate surrender to where the only person that can really help you is you.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. But it started me on a different trajectory of my journey. And once you get rid of that density, that stuckness, the stuff
Yeah.
that is just so ingrained, it allows for space and new to come in and light. And that's what the shadow work does. It allows you to release all that is just not allowing you to be your full expression of your authentic self. And we came here to be our authentic selves.
Right. So what do you think was the key takeaway to your Dark Night of the Soul? Like what did you emerge with clarity knowing after that?
I don't know if I know still. Wow.
Well,
Um,
you said it put you on a different trajectory. So
oh,
right, there
yeah.
was some clarity in that because you were going one way and then you shifted to something else. And what was
Okay.
that?
Yeah. So to believe in myself, to trust myself and not be looking outward. No
Yeah.
more, no more of that. It's all in here. And I'm the only one that holds the keys for me. I mean, I honor the support that I get. I want the support of friends and family and loved ones. But ultimately, it's you. I mean, we're all come into this world by ourselves and we leave this world by ourselves. And we really are here to evolve and grow and expand into who we came here to be.
So what do you think? And I would guess that this was one of them, but what have been what have been some of your biggest leaps of faith or acts of surrender on your path? Obviously, this was one, but
Oh, yeah.
were there any other ones that you were like, I have to jump and I don't know if there's a net or not?
I feel like that's all the time. Um, and I don't mean to be so general speaking, but it's a practice every day, because right now, things don't really feel comfortable to me.
Mhm.
And what I mean by that is I feel like we're moving to a different reality, that my home, my life, it doesn't feel the same. And I think it's safe to say we all feel that way.
Yeah.
But the unknown is looming. And we really have to get comfortable living in this space of not knowing anymore, because we're so used to, so programmed to be controlling, to make that next step, to feel like we're in control. All that is gone. It's gone. And just trusting that I may not know past tomorrow what's going to happen, and to be open to whatever shows up in my life, because whatever shows up is what is for my best.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, we don't even really know what's going to happen the next moment, right?
No,
I mean, we
no,
think we do. We think we plan, but there's that whole cliche of want to make someone laugh, tell God your plans. You know what I mean?
it's true. It's so true. Yes,
It's like, oh yeah, you think that's going to go that way. Right. Okay, good. I'm glad you
exactly.
think that.
Yeah.
So have you, and I know the answer to this, but I know I want you to speak on this, because I think it's something that people come in contact with, and we've had many conversations about this um throughout the time that we've known each other. But have you ever felt lonely or isolated in your own spiritual beliefs at times, when friends and family didn't understand you or your path?
Yes, absolutely.
How did you handle that?
Ooh, wow. Really had to dive deep for that one. The purpose of that is really to get me to, believe in myself. So, wow. How did I handle that? Love, 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 love. Um, and oh, well, and also too, to realize the people in my life that don't necessarily understand what I'm going through or look at things the same way. It asks me to examine my own beliefs. How do I feel about that? Realizing I may be the only person on earth that has that belief, but also to realize, wow, the things that happen, or the people that come into my life that challenge me, they're my best teachers. Their
Yeah.
triggering is my highest knowledge about learning about myself. So I am so thankful. I cannot tell you how thankful I am for all of the hardships and the things that have happened to me, maybe that I didn't recognize were actually benefiting me in the greatest way ever. I
Have you
hope.
struggled though with, right? Because I'm assuming, and I don't know, have you lost people because of it?
Well, I would say when I got divorced, I did, but that was because people like to choose sides,
Yeah.
and that's okay. I totally get that. I didn't take it personally. I realized I'm on a different path, and my life is going in a way that is not the same as my old life. I really feel like I'm on my second life. Like the Suzie that was um, raised in Catholic school, married at 23, raised children. She lived very unconsciously. She loved big with her heart, but she was on autopilot and unconscious of who she really is. And it wasn't until I was divorced that I started this whole new version of myself that is open to realizing all the blessings and parts of myself that have just been waiting for me. They've been waiting to come in. And I do believe in divine timing. I believe in soul contracts. I mean, things happen when they're supposed to happen.
Have you
So,
had anybody be hostile with you or regarding your beliefs, or be like, well, I think it's all bullshit. You know what I mean? And try to convince you otherwise, that you're like crazy, or I mean, I've been called everything, so it doesn't faze me, but you know what I mean? But I had to build a resilience almost to that. You know what I mean? So I know a lot of people deal with that. Did you deal with people who are just like so in your face about it?
No, but I feel like the collective is not ready. So the collective will sometimes, or the media or whoever, isn't open to new thought or to where we're headed. And so that has been very difficult, because not feeling supported and hearing messages in the collective that completely go against what you think, and you can feel so alone
Yeah.
with that. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I heard somebody, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and he said, what's interesting is the collective wants to support the oppressors, but wants to throw arrows at the people trying to help them to free themselves.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
You
Because it's
know,
threatening to our way of life, because then you have to start doing the work and thinking of things that are not the way you were raised, that you're so ingrained and programmed. It takes great courage to follow your path. Great courage.
yeah,
And
it
there may
does.
be times when you are on your own.
Here's the thing. I don't know any person on this path who hasn't felt alone.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? I think even as us that have come together and friends that I've had, like, and we're spread out everywhere, it's like I feel so alone. There's all of us, no matter how much we are involved in this work, who have felt just, it's just me out here in this weird sea of emotions. You know what I mean?
Right. But Beckett, what if you were planted where you are to, plant those seeds, and just you being in that part of the country? I mean, I really feel like there's a lot to be said for that.
Totally. And I totally agree with you. And that was a conversation I actually ended up having with a friend. She was in San Diego, and I said, I think we're so spread out, because she's like, why aren't we all closer? I said, because there aren't so many of us, that we have to spread out, right? To push that light and knowledge to so many people. If we were all in one little cluster in the middle of I don't know, Minnesota or something, you know what I mean? We wouldn't be able to reach as many people, I think, as we're like seeds. I look at it as like seeds sprinkled on the soil.
For sure.
Right.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And so you kind of have to throw us. And I don't know if a seed ever thinks that it's like, damn, it's just me, but they don't realize, like, 5 feet, there's another seed. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I have something I want to share with you. I was in Hawaii a month ago, and I went by myself for 2 weeks on a spiritual quest, on a spiritual solo journey. And I went to Maui. And wouldn't you know, I met 3 people during the course of my 2 weeks that were soul tribe.
Yeah.
And you magnetize the people that are, to you, that are resonance. And it was so exhilarating, and just amazing. And I said to the one girl, wow, it's so great meeting you. It's hard meeting people that I can resonate with like this. And she said, they're out there and they're growing. And I felt so heartfelt and, encouraged by that.
How was the energy in Maui,
Oh, amazing, amazing.
even with everything that's gone on?
Even with everything that's going on, yes, I met one woman coming out of the bathroom, and I said, oh my gosh, I'm sorry I opened the door on you. And she said, oh, don't worry, because I'm not in my right mind. I went through the fires. I'm living in my truck. And she said, I went and spoke in front of the senator, and we're trying to get help for the people. She said, I'm a warrior. And,
Wow.
people that are really displaced and in trauma, she was clearly in trauma. She said, I can do this. I'm strong. I know I can do this. And I could not believe it. So that became very real to me. I did see Lahaina. Didn't expect to, but I did see the devastation. I was driving, and then all of a sudden you turn the corner and wow, there it is. And I'm just,
Wow.
affected. Unbelievable. But the energy there in the land and the natives. Wow, it is incredible. It felt like home. Whole time I was there, I got the message, you're home. And I knew it. I know that that's, someplace on the earth that perhaps I could call home someday.
Yeah, I've always been drawn to go there. In fact, I get these tinctures from a guy in Hawaii.
Oh, cool.
He does like all the Hawaiian plants and leaves and makes these, you know, tinctures, so to speak. And I've gotten a couple of them, and they have such a profound, there's a ceremonial spray I have of his that the minute I spray it on me, like I can feel this shift.
You just know.
I just know, like, it's just, I'm actually almost out of it and I need to get more. And he's doing a lot for Maui and all that. Cause right, that's his home. He teaches so much, but I've always felt drawn and have never been yet. But I had a natal chart person. She put mine on Hawaii because I said, I just feel so drawn to go there and I have yet to. And she said the same thing. She goes, it will feel like home for you.
Me too. No wonder we get along so well.
Right. And what's interesting is I've gotten these messages. I know we're kind of steering off, but lately of changing my diet and taking care of myself, and I'm being called to eat more seafood. Like that's yeah. Just where I'm naturally drawn. Like you said, you just know. It's like I just know, and I'm like, does that have anything to do with that?
It could. I think you're just, our diets evolve and organically.
Yes. I've always loved seafood, but I've never been so drawn to it as I am right now.
Oh, fascinating.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, because I've always, like I said, I enjoy it, but now I'm just like, so it's almost like that's all I want to eat.
Right.
I've never had that experience before, but so yes, like to you. And if you ever go live there, then I will come visit.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. You better.
All right. What gifts, abilities, or insights have been awakened in you since emerging on this path? Like, is there a gift that you didn't know you had that, like you said, all of a sudden mirror work, or, could you hear things? Could you see things, like any of the clairs? Like, was there something that just kind of clearly opened up that you didn't know you had before?
Oh, all of it. Like the clairaudience, the claircognizance, the knowing, the hearing. In fact, when I was having the experience where I was looking out my window and it turned into heaven on earth, I heard a crystalline frequency that I knew it. I mean, it was just, it was like right here. You know how you hear sometimes, like the ear pitch changes. And
I don't get that. Like, when we went to school, and I they had us like test our top 3 clairs.
Yeah.
Right. And then you can do others, right? You can do them all, but mine are more the knowing, clairsentient, clear feeling. Like I feel, I just know, you know what I mean? Just recently I've started hearing, do you know what I mean? Like voices almost, but it's very sporadic. And then because I lost my taste and smell, but oddly enough, I'll smell certain things.
Oh, interesting. Yes.
Yeah, those were never on there for me. So those are new, but
I had in bed last night. I couldn't sleep last night, and I'm laying in bed and I'm like, oh my God, I smell burnt toast. Why am I smelling burnt toast? Like, what's that about? Is there a message in the burnt toast smell? I don't know.
There could be. That's what I see. I talk to my guides nonstop, and I always tell my clients that, like, do you always ask your guides? And they always look at me and they're like, I forget to do that. And I'm like, I talk to them like they're your dog or like my family. I'm constantly talking to them like, does this mean something? Like your point is, because for a while there I was smelling flowers, like specifically roses.
Right.
And I have no scent, but I would get this wafting of rose. And my grandmother's name is Rose. So I was like, is it her? But she's alive. She's here. She's, just turned 93 and dealing with some things, or is it something else? Do you know what I mean?
Right. Right.
So it's interesting, but
it is. And I find that when I go into kind of a deep, not deep, but just a meditative state and start being more mindful, I will ask my higher self something or, try to figure something out. And it's almost like a conversation going on inside now. So things I feel like are really unlocking. And what's been really cool on my journey is going to different places in the world that I feel like I am getting the information that I need from these different ancient sites too. Now, whether
Well,
that's true or not, that's how I feel.
you went to Egypt, right?
I did. I went twice. Yeah.
Twice. I thought you only went once. Damn.
I went in 2019 and then this year.
What happened? That's another place I'd always like to go.
Ooh, totally different experiences. Gosh,
Do you think
it's
that's because you're different?
yes,
Okay.
yes, completely. Yes. Like I went into this one temple that's considered a Stargate, Abydos. And yeah, and I was toning, and I kept hearing, "Welcome home. We've been waiting for you." And
What's
so
toning?
just like, oh,
Okay, so like a chanting
a chance.
almost. Okay,
Yes.
okay.
And the energy felt so different. It felt so different. So anyway, just different experiences. Hawaii to me is very, very sacred. It's considered the heart chakra of the earth. And also, if you've ever heard of Lemuria,
Yeah,
Hawaii
I have.
is part of Lemuria too. So
And I know I'm from that DNA part of that, so that's probably why I feel also drawn to there. So, did you feel more at home in Egypt or Hawaii, or were they very like still home but very different energetic frequencies for you?
Hawaii for sure.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Because I think the water element, I
Mm.
think the water element, the waters in Hawaii are so sacred and potent. It just takes you to a different place.
What do you think you were in Egypt?
I'm sorry.
What do you think you were in Egypt?
Ooh, that's hard to know because obviously I met my cat there in a different um it's hard to say, but I did have an experience when I was there in one temple where I felt that I was probably a priestess because I envisioned myself as I'm walking along the temple wall. I could feel that I had on a white robe and then I could feel it swishing as I was walking. So I would say probably a priestess.
That's funny because that's what I was hearing in my head before you answered. And I was
Uh,
gonna say, like, I was gonna ask you, do you think you were a priestess? Because that's what I heard was like priestess. I'm like, I could totally see that about you.
cool.
So in wrapping this up, I usually ask guests one question always, and we'll get to that at the end. But I want to ask you this before because I think you're such a great source in this is if you could encapsulate the key lesson or takeaway you've gained from walking this path, what would it be? And what would you tell your fellow sojourners?
Wow. I am love because that's all there is. And oh gosh, I just feel like just the mere fact of being on the earth is my purpose. I don't feel like we have to do anything fantastic. Yes, follow your dream, follow your excitement, follow your passion. Those are all your higher self leading you where you need to go. But I am so content and in love with this aspect, this who I am, my soul. And gosh, I feel continuously my higher self, my future self pulling me forward and really asking things like doing this podcast with you. I knew that I couldn't say no. It scared the bejesus out of me. My future self said, do it. And I'm like, okay. So, um,
I love your future self.
I know, she's so cool. Yeah, she's so awesome.
That's awesome.
And I trust you, Beckett, too. And I know that we were going to have a really fun time. But I think just trusting myself and knowing that I'm perfectly imperfect and it's okay. It's absolutely okay.
I love that. And it's what's interesting is you're the first person I've ever heard say that you are completely content just being on this planet as yourself. Like, I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that. And it's so beautiful. And one of the reasons why I wanted you on this podcast, because you have such a unique perspective and an energy that I think so many are trying to understand and get to. And you have a simplified way of not complicating it, if that makes sense. You know, and really being that living example of just being grateful for life.
Yes. Yes, I really am. It's going so fast.
I
Life
know.
is so fast. It really is.
I know.
Um,
So I ask this question to everybody I have,
yeah.
and I think it just helps to give other people guidance of figuring out what works for them. But describe a spiritual North Star that guides you whenever you feel lost or uncertain.
Mm. I would have to say my higher self for sure. When I I call her Big Suzie. When I talk to Big Suzie, she is amazing. She comes through for me. And this is kind of a newish thing in the last year, that she's really communicating with me now. And because I've made a connection with her that is built on trust and confidence, knowing that what she's telling me is right. And I go to her every time. I really do. And my angels, I know my angels are here for me too.
I was just
Um,
going to ask, what was your North Star before Big Susie?
wow. Probably others outside of me.
Mm.
It was others. Yeah. Yeah.
It's funny because I asked that question. Some people are like, what do you, and I'm like, it could be a thing. It could be a cup of tea. It could be music. It could be people. It could be anything. It's just, for me, it's nature.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Go sit. If I just go sit in the trees,
Right.
I'm
Right.
good.
They're so wise. They want to tell so much. They have stories to tell.
Right. They do. You know what I mean? And and they'll tell you if you listen. You know what I mean? But I think it's important because I want to showcase to people it's personal to you, and whatever that North Star is, it's important for you to find it and be okay with it. And it doesn't matter if anybody else understands it. So I thank you, my friend, for being here. I appreciate you so much.
Oh, love you, Beckett. You're the best.
Thank you. And hopefully I will have you back on here and we'll have another chit chat.
I would love it.
All right, my friend. Everyone else, we'll see you on the next episode.